Welcome to another edition of SVSU Red Alert, your weekly update on Saginaw Valley State University athletics. I'm your host, JJ Bain. The SVSU football team got a win over Lake Erie in a game filled with offensive and defensive highlights. We'll review that with SVSU football coach Jim Collins, and we'll get an update on SVSU women's tennis with their head coach Jen Bain. That's all ahead on this edition of SVSU Red Alert. Welcome back to SVSU Red Alert. I'm JJ Bain, joined by SVSU football coach Jim Collins. And Coach, I think we can spend this entire segment talking about the big plays in the Lake Erie game because you think, well, it's 51-41, not many big plays on defense. There were a lot of big plays on defense and obviously on offense.
It was a great game just to see playmaking happening on the football field for us. Both sides of the ball, as you mentioned, we ran the ball well. There were some big pass plays. And then defensively, we created some turnovers, had some big hits, a bunch of tackles for losses, sacks. So the game was filled with a lot, including a great special teams play as well.
And again, that's the one where you're able to go and you block the kick, and then John Bryant's able to return it, I think officially 98 yards for 2 points.
And that's great to see. You know, the week before we blocked it, we got tackled as we were about ready to score the 2 points. And John, we did a great job blocking for John, and he made the big play after Christian Babini blocked the kick. And, you know, it was an exceptional play. It turns out to be a big play in that game because we win by 10, and that would have been something that might have made it a 7-point game at the time, and you never know what's going to happen then.
And talk about Lake Erie as well, because this is one of those teams that if people haven't seen them play, they ran 110 offensive plays in that game.
And you know, sometimes you think that's an exception, but they've been doing it every week. They've been over 100 plays in 3 out of 4 of their games. And what they do is they do a great job of extending drives. The quarterback is phenomenal in terms of escapability. He made some good throws. And you know, one of the things that gives your defense fits is not being able to get off the field on third down. And we weren't able to do it a couple times because of some great plays. And then it starts to mount on you as your defense gets worn down on 15 and 16 play drives because they've been out there for so long. And a lot of times when you see a team run that many plays, it's because of a lack of efficiency from the offense, and we were very efficient on offense, and we were able to extend drives, get first downs, and score points. So I give them a lot of credit. They did a great job offensively.
One of the things that I thought was key from the offensive standpoint is that in the fourth quarter, when you're trying to protect the lead, you had a good 10-play, 80-yard drive, took almost 5 minutes off the clock to really try to put yourself with a little more separation from Lake Erie and increase the pressure on them.
Absolutely, and that was a big drive for us, and they had cut the lead to 10, and we were able to go and extend it to 17, and it was a great drive. We milked the clock, and that's the other thing that's unusual about a game like that. They had 110 plays, but they only had the ball for 32 minutes. We had the ball for 28, so it wasn't a big disparity in time of possession. But that was a big drive for us, got our defense an opportunity to rest, and once again, I think basically sealed the game for us.
And this is a game where John Jennings only completes 12 passes. I think he only threw 16, but again, very efficient, but just not much in the passing game because you were able to score quickly.
Well, and we were able to run the ball well, and that was the plan. You know, time of possession, control the tempo. And the other thing was when you're 12 for 16, but you average 26 yards of completion, you know, you're hitting big plays and scoring quick. And we had some big plays from not just Jeff Janis, but Andrew Dillon had another big day, and Alfonso Voltaggio had another big catch for a touchdown. So it was good to see all those guys get included in the passing game.
And then Norman Schuford had a big day. I think he wound up with 29 carries, which is probably the big number, and over 100 yards.
He had over 140 yards and tough yards at times, but he also made some explosive runs. And you know, you see him getting better and more comfortable with the offense every week. And the other thing that he was able to do is he had a couple catches that were big plays for us as well.
And then on defense, again, out there for a lot of plays, but they were able to come up with some huge turnovers at critical times.
And we talked about that, and we talk about it every week. If you can win the turnover battle, you're going to have a great opportunity to win. And as many plays as Lake Erie ran, I thought the biggest thing we did was we created turnovers. We had some big hits that forced turnovers, and it was a lot of people around the football. I thought we ran to the football really well the whole day. The effort defensively was outstanding, and the 3 turnovers were big.
and also wind up with 7 sacks. We'll talk to Josh Miller, the defensive line coach, coming up here. But again, that's a big situation for your football team as well, to be able to put Lake Erie in those difficult down and distance situations.
Well, you always talk about pressuring the quarterback, and that enables you, I think, to do a better job of covering in the secondary, and we did. We had people in his face all day, and that's why I give them credit, because I thought their quarterback did a great job of just bouncing up after those sacks and still competing like I think they threw the ball 54 times. And when you can sack a guy 7 times and he still comes back and as efficient as he was, that's a good football player and a good quarterback that we saw. But I thought we did a great job of pressuring all day, not just from the sack standpoint, but making him run and making it difficult on him.
What did you see when you went back and looked at the film of this Lake Erie game that maybe people would not have recognized just watching it live? Because again, such a disparity in terms of the number of plays, I think that might skew people's perception a little bit.
Well, there's 2 big plays in that second half. We came out in the second half and forced them to punt, and they executed a fake punt on us. And that's something that, is in their own territory. And it's a great call by them at the time, and they did a great job of executing it. And that extended the drive. They went on a 16-play drive at that point, ate up a lot of clock, got, and had a lot of plays run. And then there was another point in the game where it was a bad punt by them, and it hit one of our players in the back trying to get out of the way and enabled them to extend another drive. So those are the 2 big plays, the special teams plays in that second half that went against us, that helped them not just get points on the board, but run a lot of plays and tire our defense out.
But your defense still able to come up, despite all those plays, even late in that football game, coming up with some key stops and able to continue to, as you said, rush to the football.
Well, and that's the other thing. We had a big play. They were moving the football in the fourth quarter, late in the fourth quarter with a chance to cut the lead, and we were able to stop them, create a turnover, and once again, seal the game.
And SVSU able to get the victory, 51-41, the final score over Lake Erie. The Cardinals now move into GLIAC North play as they will travel to Ferris State. We'll preview that one a little bit later on, but when we come back, we'll be joined by SVSU defensive line coach Josh Miller. That's next on SVSU Red Alert.
This week, Spring Hill Suites Female Athlete of the Week is Lindsay Reynolds. Reynolds, a senior on the SVSU women's volleyball team, aided in the Cardinals' 1-1 record this past weekend. Reynolds was awarded Chili's Player of the Match following a 14-kill performance in the win on Friday and recorded 6 kills on Sunday's match. The Cardinals start a busy week of away matches on Tuesday, October 1st at Lake Superior State before taking on Lake Erie October 4th and Ashland October 5th. Lindsay Reynolds, your Spring Hill Suites Female Athlete of the Week.
Welcome back to SVSU Red Alert. I'm JJ Beam, joined by SVSU defensive line coach Josh Miller. And Josh, I guess in some ways a good week to talk to you because defensive line came up with a lot of big plays in that win against Lake Erie.
Yeah, I mean, when you play 110 plays, obviously you get a lot more chances to make the big plays, but the good thing is we made the big plays when we needed them. 2-minute drill before half, we were able to produce, 3 sacks there. And in the second half, when they had to really throw the ball a lot more and try to come back from the lead we had, we were able to get a lot of pressure. There was a lot of opportunities, we still kind of didn't capitalize on. We had them running around, but with a great athletic QB like Lake Erie has, he's a smaller, tougher guy to kind of keep in that pocket. But we were able to come up with some big plays at some big times. So.
Your defensive ends really stepping up. Will Schwartz had, I think, 3 sacks. Ryan Bush had 2. So again, getting pressure off the edges.
Yeah, off the edges as well. And they run some different blocking schemes on their, we call it a semi-roll kind of sprint out, where they do some X blocking, and we were able to kind of capitalize and setting edges with them guys, as well as interior linemen being able to get good pressure and get them moving around in the pocket. And what we did at times was able to keep them in that pocket, kind of scrambling, and then capitalize by bringing them down.
You were a defensive lineman, played at SVSU, went on to play in the CFL. You mentioned 110 plays. What's it like as a defensive lineman when you are out there for that many snaps and you're expending so much energy on each play trying to get upfield?
Yeah, it's tough. And what we've been fortunate here is to have several guys ready to play, game experience, and to really take that pressure off, where some positions there might only be 1 guy or 2 guys that really play. We've been playing 9 to 10 D linemen this year. So that obviously helps in a situation where you got to play essentially almost 2 full games defensively. But yeah, tiring, like you said, especially with that many plays, that many passes and runs flying around the field. So our guys, I think, done a great job leading up to this point in the summer and in practices every week of staying conditioned to help us in those situations. But yeah, I think the biggest thing, being fortunate with having 9 guys, 10 guys ready to play, obviously really helps with those big guys running around that many plays during the game.
And one of those backups had a key play late in the game, and Dan Ward being able to recover that fumble, because that really helped SVSU maintain control of that game in the fourth quarter.
Absolutely. And with forcing a few fumbles that day, what we did a great job of, getting a lot of red hats to the ball. And if you watch some of those plays over and over, and we kind of talked about in our defensive meeting last night, is showing the importance of having all 11 guys flying to the ball. Because a couple of those fumbles that came out, if we didn't have a guy there to scoop it, the next guy behind it was a Lake Erie guy. So it really showed the importance of obviously everybody flying to the ball, everybody being able to be in position to where either a missed tackle, then we have somebody to back up, or we get the ball on the ground like we did a couple times this past weekend and be able to recover it and get the ball back in our offensive hands.
Now you take on a Ferris team that, again, has that dual threat at quarterback, but he's kind of run first, pass second kind of guy and very big. What type of pressure does that put on a defensive line, knowing you're facing a quarterback that's about 235 pounds?
Yeah, it's going to be a big test. Now, we've had Lake Erie was a high explosive offense. Statistically, look at them coming in, so we knew we were going to have our challenges there. And it doesn't get any easier this week with Ferris State. And what they do is kind of really unique offense that we only see once a year with their option attack. They do so many different formations and different looks. And yeah, with a running back of his size, it's a linebacker out there playing running back. It's extremely athletic. So it's a big test for us this week to be disciplined in practice, get all the reps of the different things we're going to see. And then again, it's really option rules. So we got to make sure we're just disciplined in that manner. We got our dive back players, we got our end players. As a defensive line, we need to make sure we're just disciplined on that and just playing physical, because they're a big offensive line that comes flying out the ball and leaning hard, and we got to match that physicality up front and be able to make plays, because it's going to be a dogfight. It's going to be a long game. But if we are physical up front and are disciplined in our reads, I think we'll have a good day.
How much does it help you to have seniors now that have so much experience in what SVSU is trying to do when you do take on a team like Ferris that, as you said, throws some things at you that you don't often see?
Yeah, it helps. It helps greatly, especially last year, returning, majority of our guys except one. That experience that we've built over the last couple of years really helps you and has you more prepared and disciplined, feeling a little better as a defensive coach, knowing that these guys have seen an attack like this. Because it's a little easier going against those simpler spread attacks or what to expect. But a team like Ferris, which you don't see any week but this week, it helps having the guys that have been in the fight before against these guys, have seen the bullets flying and kind of know what to expect going into the game. And then they can also help the younger guys that are stepping into the role too to help them prepare even better. So having that experience on the defensive line and defense as a whole kind of helps going into a week like this where it's kind of going to be a lot of different things, unlike the last few weeks where it's been a little more, we know exactly what they want to do in these formations. This week there's a lot more motions and stuff going on, so the experience is huge.
Hopefully they're able to bring that experience to bear against Ferris. Josh Miller, thanks for joining us. Good luck.
Thank you, JJ.
And when we come back, we'll talk SVSU women's tennis with their head coach, Jen Boehm. That's next on SVSU Red Alert. Welcome back to SVSU Red Alert. I'm JJ Boehm, joined by SVSU women's tennis coach Jen Boehm. And Jen, welcome to the program. Thanks for joining us.
No problem.
And the SVSU tennis team coming fresh off an ITA regional, as our viewers may know, Jen being my wife, we have a 7-month-old son, Christian. I've been traveling with tennis, getting to see how your team's been performing, and a number of players able to get victories at the ITA regional, where you're playing a lot of the top programs from across the Midwest, but really your freshman, Isabella Ishmailova, standing out by making it to the quarterfinals.
Yeah, no, she had a pretty impressive run at the ITAs, and it's a big deal going to this tournament. Not every team even makes the trip, so for us to go and have her do so well is definitely a highlight of the season. As a freshman, it's exciting to see that kind of success already, knowing that she'll continue to improve, and hopefully, along with other players on our team, we can even do better next year. So.
Isabella able to knock off 2 seeded players in the process before eventually losing to last year's regional champion.
Yes. She, I think, surprised some people who had never heard of her before, and so that's kind of one of the nice things about coming in unseeded. People may assume that maybe you're not as strong, and so she played well her first match, and then, definitely surprised the number 5 seed from Drury, who I think was expecting to move on to the next round. The girl who she lost to won last year's tournament. She was the 3 seed this year. And ultimately lost in the semis this year. But it was a tough match, tough style of play for Isabella, but she's eager, I think, to improve and try to do better next year. So.
And then if you look at the rest of the A draw, everybody picked up at least 1 victory in singles in terms of Megan Woody, Erin Dowd, and Charlotte Wong.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think, compared to some of our results last year, we actually did better in singles this year. Last year we had some more standout performances in doubles. This year we still had some good results in doubles, and each team was able to win 1 match. But our best performances definitely came in singles, across the A draw for sure.
And now you move on where you're back into GLIAC play, you're back home and have a big weekend coming up with matches against Wayne State, Hillsdale, and Findlay.
Yes. Wayne State definitely stands out as the toughest of those 3 teams. They've always been a top 2 or 3 teams in the conference, so we know going in to start the weekend that's going to be a tough test for us. But like some of the other top teams we've played, we're looking to be competitive in a lot of those spots, and hopefully take a few matches, if not more. The key for us will be doubles. It's kind of an equalizer spot, so to speak, even if they have a little bit more depth than singles. Doubles is something that we can come in and try to put a little bit more pressure on them. And then the next match is Hillsdale and Findlay. Again, these teams have been much improved over the last couple of years, so we're looking for some really competitive matches, and we're going to have to play well to beat these teams.
And you mentioned the doubles play, obviously one of the highlights of this season in doubles so far was your number 1 doubles knocking off Northwood's number 1 doubles. That's something that doesn't happen very often.
No, and I think that tends to be where Northwood's a little more vulnerable to. They're exceptional singles players, but doubles is a different game, and I think our matchup with them, we played extremely well, but I think just the strength of volleying and having a little bit more, I guess, variety in our games in that matchup, we were able to pull out the victory. And I know probably made their coach a little unhappy, but it felt good on our side to come away, especially at the top of the lineup, to be able to come away with a victory.
And you talk about the matchups that you have with Hillsdale and Findlay, and then your last 2 matches on the road at Lake State and Michigan Tech. These are teams that if SVSU wants to make it back to the GLIAC tournament, you're going to have to pick up some victories.
Right. I'd say we probably have to win 4 out of 5 of those last 5 matches, and so we're up to the test, and we want to get back. That's definitely a big goal for us this season, is to get back to the tournament. But each year it's becoming increasingly more difficult as the lower teams, so to speak, in the conference have all increased their depth and are just much more competitive. So we've got to step our game up if we want to make it back.
And the match with Hillsdale on Sunday will be your senior day. You have 2 seniors in Charlotte Wong and Ashley Giordano. Talk about them, their play this year, and what they've done for the program.
Sure. Well, Ashley and Charlotte, this will be the first group of students I've seen since they were freshmen. It was just, I came in the second part of their freshman year, but yeah, it's been great to see them grow as student athletes. You know, they've been great off the court and on the court. And, you know, I think for them, they're getting into that final stretch of their last GLIAC season and really wanting to push and do well. So, yeah, recognizing them on senior day is a big deal. I think both sets of parents are able to come in, even all the way from Prince Edward Island, Canada. So we're excited to have them and kind of recognize everything that they've been for our program.
Well, we look forward to that and hope that it's a good senior day and hope the Cardinals can pick up some wins here down the stretch. Jen Boehm, thanks for joining us.
Thanks.
And when we come back, we'll be rejoined by SVSU football coach Jim Collins. That's next on SVSU Red Alert.
This week's male Spring Hill Suites Athlete of the Week is Will Schwarz. Schwarz, a senior on the SVSU football team, helped lead the Cardinals to a Great Lakes Intercollegiate Athletic Conference win against Lake Erie. Saginaw Valley improves to 3-0 in conference play and are currently tied for first place. Schwarz recorded 10 tackles, 3 sacks, 4 tackles for loss, and had a forced fumble and another fumble that he recovered. The Cardinals now head on the road to play Ferris State Saturday, October 5th at 2 p.m. Will Schwarz, your Spring Hill Suites Male Athlete of the Week.
Welcome back to SVSU Red Alert. I'm JJ Boehm, rejoined by SVSU football coach Jim Collins. And Coach, you come out of the games outside of the GLIAC North, 3-1 overall, 3-0 in GLIAC play, but now you move into the GLIAC North and you get a tough test right out of the chute, having to travel to Ferris State.
And Ferris is playing great football right now, JJ. They're the other team in the North that hasn't lost a game yet, and they've got a great quarterback. He's done a great job of running their offense. He did last year. He was the freshman of the year in the GLIAC last year. And the other thing they've complimented him with is some fast receivers and a physical offensive line. So that's going to be a great challenge for our defense, stopping a little bit different type of attack than Lake Erie ran against us, more quarterback runs and power type of runs. And then defensively, once again, a team that plays hard, is physical, runs to the football, and has a lot of good players.
And you guys have a common opponent in Lake Erie, and very similar games, at least on paper, as Ferris was able to win 56-49, SVSU wins 51-41. So again, a lot of things indicating that this should be a very competitive game.
And that, I think that common opponent really shows a lot about Lake Erie. Speaks well for them, the experience and the explosiveness they have in offense. But for Ferris, that was one of those games where they had to score points, they had to come from behind, and they proved that they could.
And so now you get ready for, as you said, a different type of opponent, and one that the quarterback isn't just a dual threat. I mean, he's a very big physical runner, and I think he's about 235 pounds, so you almost have to treat him more like a fullback in some ways.
Absolutely, and the person he reminds me the most of is Tim Tebow. He plays like Tim Tebow. He's a physical guy. He seems to be a great leader. He energizes their team. In the Lake Erie game, when they needed plays, whether it was 3rd and 11 and they were running the quarterback right up the middle, that's what type of player he is, and that's how they depend on him. So I've been really impressed with him over the last 2 years and the way he plays and how courageous he's been, to be honest with you, because he gets 30, 35 carries. He seems to keep coming back for more.
Last year's game against Ferris State was one that SVSU was trailing late in that football game, but that was the one big play you were able to get a hit on the quarterback, Vander Laan. He coughs it up, you're able to recover, get it into overtime, and ultimately win in overtime.
And that once again, turnovers play a big part in this game, and no matter what, I think if you look week in and week out at any level of football, if you can create turnovers and you can protect the football, you're going to put yourself in a great position to win. And we did that last year in that game, and then we were able to get the victory, tie the game up, get it in overtime. And I'm sure Ferris is thinking about that, and they've been talking about that all week in their preparations. But that's the key. You got to force turnovers. Don't make it easy on the offense. Make them have to execute and get your guys to the football and hit them and hope that ball squirts loose and you have enough people around to recover it.
What do you do to get ready now for Ferris State as well, in terms of a team that does present, again, some different challenges than some of the other teams you faced to date?
Well, I think there's two things. Number one, we have to understand that it's going to be a physical game. And I think there's two ways of approaching that. Not being as physical in practice so you're ready physically for a game like that, but also having some periods in practice where you do get after it a little bit, so our guys have a feel for the tempo and the physicality of it. So we've got to make sure we go into that game fresh, ready to go, because it's going to be a battle. It's going to be a physical battle. But the other thing is, once again, got to find the football. There's a lot of misdirection in that offense, but ultimately they want the quarterback to carry the football, and we've got to make sure we're disciplined and we find that football and we get to it.
Looking at your offensive side of the football, does it help that John Jennings is a senior? Because you think about the previous game, only 16 pass attempts. He was very good in those 16 attempts, but trying to keep the timing and the rhythm that's so critical to the passing game.
Well, we're happy that he's a senior and has all that experience. The first touchdown of the Lake Erie game, we called a different play than the one he ran. He recognized coverage, changed the play, and threw a 50-yard touchdown pass to Voltaggio. So, having a guy with that experience that understands the league, that has played against, the teams in the league and has experience against the teams in the league really helps.
And now you get ready for what we know is likely to be a gauntlet as it was last year in the GLIAC North. And I'm sure that's something you're talking to your team about as well, is to make sure that mentally and emotionally they're prepared every week.
And we talked about that last night in our team meeting, and that's one of the things you have to emphasize every single week in this league. And we've had some two tough ones back-to-back with Findlay and Lake Erie, and I said it's not going to get any easier. It just gets tougher every week, and you've got to be on your game, and you've got to be the type of team that wants to improve every week and has that determination to improve every week rather than just stay the course in terms of just staying even. So it's a challenge, there's no doubt about it, and it's a physical challenge, and you've got to be able to show up on Sunday, ready to get your body, back into shape for that practice week of preparation and then the game.
Well, hopefully all of that comes together for the Cardinals as they now will travel to take on Ferris State. Coach Collins, good luck. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, JJ.
And we thank you for joining us as well, and we hope you have enjoyed this edition of SVSU Red Alert.